What's up, YouTube? Chrono Knight back here with another video, and I'm here to talk everything ban list. I'm here to discuss the new official ban list that has been released. And so I figured a good way to talk about the ban list is to look at my previous tier list. Go check out that video if you haven't already, where I kind of discuss every rationale for the cards, where I tried to predict what the new ban list was going to be, and let's talk about if I got that prediction right or wrong. Um, and so, yeah, it's been a lot of discussions going on within our Discord. But let's hop on in. So let's look at every. We're gonna go one card at a time. I'm gonna go fairly quickly, but really just gonna give my insights on how I feel about the final decisions that were made. And so the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to go through each card and I will basically circle it if I got it right, or put an X if I got it wrong, and kind of talk about what that new position for the card would be. Okay. All right. So let's hop right in. So, first of all, Shockwave 5, we did get that correct, guys. It is still fully banned. My rationale was that losing your entire hand just for playing a 5-star creature was um, a little bit much, and so I'm glad that the card is still banned. So we don't have to worry about that card. So yeah, slush infestation, same thing. Um, Zone control could be very, very oppressing, and to the point where everyone would have to kind of like play this card to respect it at the same time. And so, um, glad that that's also still fully banned. Next is parallel universe, which, as we predicted, is still banned. It not only, excuse me, is it difficult to execute on Untapped, it just could be a headache in general, and it's just one of those cards. It's like, let's just kind of keep it out so we can just play some regular CG. So yeah. Next is a Dark Space Eater. We did get that correct as well. Um, a very, very powerful card, similar to Slush Infestation, where you would have to kind of like run your own copies to kind of respect it, if that makes sense. And it almost kind of comes down to like who draws the card first, and you gain a lot of advantage just off of this one card. So I'm glad it's still banned. Cosmic Treasure, we got that correct as well. Still banned. Moving on to Phantom Matter. So Phantom Matter was actually a predicted card, which is a new addition to the fully banned list, and we got that correct. We predicted that Phantom Matter would be banned. Not for the case of it being just a fully oppressive card, but just more so from the sense of like, um, let's try to look at the meta from a different perspective. And so sometimes you take out certain cards that have just been overused, just to get a fresh feel for the game. So Phantom Matter has been taken out. Point Turret, we got that one correct. We did get Point Turret correct as well. That has been fully banned based on the official ban list. Um, Happy about this one as well. I get the idea of the card, but in the current meta, sometimes it could be like too punishing, where you're playing good, you have a lot of momentum. Like I said in my previous video, CG is a momentum based game, and so you don't want to feel like you're just being punished for playing the game properly, right? And this card would kind of bail out a lot of players, or even cost you a game. Like you just would automatically lose if they had this card and you didn't have an out to it. So, yeah. Next was Kaleidoscope Warriors. This is the first card we got wrong, guys. So this one was wrong. We did not. This card wasn't addressed at all on the ban list. I'm just double checking my notes here. Yes, it was not addressed at all. So no hit to Warriors. So Warriors is still at 2 copies. We were expecting some type of ban. For me personally, it was more of a personal suggestion maybe than others, but I thought the card deserved a little bit to be looked at. This next card was really, really shocking to me. We got this one wrong too. There's no hit to Upside Down Realm. So the OTK, also known as one turn kill strategy, is still viable. Um, and Upside Down Realm says that when you would lose stats for a creature, you actually gain stats instead. And that combined with I'm forgetting the name of the 5-star creature. Wow, I'm blanking on it. Wow, that's crazy. Um, yeah, there's a 5-star creature that would kill an attachment, and you do this weird combo where the attachment bounces back and forth, and instead of losing health, you gain health, and then you can swing into your opponent for game in one turn. Please comment below the name of that creature. I try to blank it out of my mind. So yeah. um, Moving on to half band. We got this one wrong too. We thought Bernard was gonna come off of the ban list, but it actually is still fully banned. I was thinking maybe one copy could be up for discussion based on other things that happen within the ban list, but we got that wrong. Bernard the Space Worm is still fully banned. Pale Fam, we got that completely right. As I stated in my tier list video, I feel like Pelfam is in a solid spot where it's good at one copy. You can splash it in the different decks, but you have like some things to think about when you play the card, right? It's a 7-star creature. It's a creature that you're adding, but sometimes it doesn't complement your strategy. And so it's a powerful card, but you still have to think about how you're going to use it, right? Okay. Galaxy Crash, we got that one correct as well. Galaxy Crash at 1, I think is pretty solid. It's good to have that one type of card that helps you clear the board, but more than one copy kind of feels like a bit much. And having 0 copies kind of makes it feel like the strategies that put up a lot of creatures could be a little overwhelming. So it's a good card to keep things in check. This next hit was actually interesting. We got the Spoons prediction wrong, actually. So Spoons has been fully banned. So I'll kind of do like a little thing here. Yeah, Spoons has been fully banned, guys, and so there's no Phantasmal Spoons. I didn't think that it needed to be touched for reasons that I stated in the video as well, where I talked about how it complements certain decks a little bit more than others, and so that it's an okay card to not touch. But I see the rationale for why it would be hit as well. It's one of those staples that everyone would run. And so maybe similar to Phantom Matter, it's just kind of like shaking up the meta a little bit by not having it available. And so yeah, Spoons is out of here. For sale sign, we got correct. Powerful card, but still is in this situation where that you need to think about, does it work with your deck? If you already struggle with the econ, for sale sign maybe doesn't fit, but it's still a good card for removal and still has some balancing aspects because your opponent does have the opportunity to buy that creature back. So makes sense that that's still half banned. Um, we're pro jetpack. I'm glad we got this one correct as well. Still, that's half banned. My prediction was that it could be a little bit too splashable at 2 copies, but 1 copy does support certain strategies that like to run similar numbers of the same star creatures. So if you're running a lot of 8-star or 7-star creatures and you kind of want a way to make them a little bit stickier on the board, War Project Pack is the way to go. Beast of the Black Hole, and I'll just go ahead and throw Planetary Filter in there as well. Just good staples. I put them on the same level as like Galaxy Crash, where that one copy is just good to keep the game in balance. And anything more or less than that could kind of sway things out of order. And so I like that both of these are still at 1 copy. Um, Next was Hexator. We thought that I'll actually talk about these 3 in general. I'm sorry, 3 together. So Hexator, Lionel, and Trungulus. I thought that some combination of these things would happen. And so what happened was that Trungulus was limited and Lionel and Hexator were not touched at all. Um, and I'm still processing how I feel about that. I understand it, and I think the reason why I like it so much is because the United card, spoiler alert, was also addressed, and so I kind of understand why you would just limit Trong and not really touch the other ones. Um, as I stated in that video as well, like I feel like the Shape Knights needed to be addressed, but because they're new cards, you don't want to hit them so hard that they're unplayable. Um, so I can understand this. I'm really curious about how the Shape Knight strategy is going to adapt, especially when it comes to the United card. And since we're on the topic of it, I'll talk about it now. I did not add United to my tier list um, because I thought the card itself was okay as long as these cards were addressed in some way. But now I see the rationale, right? So the United card has been um, I would say reprinted, but rewritten to basically only function with the infinite cards and the night cards that do not have an ability. And so there's no longer any synergy with the United cards and the Shape Knights. And because that's the case, I think it's understandable to leave Hex and Lionel at two copies. But limiting the Trongulus puts a little bit more pressure on like drawing into your Shape Knights instead of automatically getting your combo set up just by drawing into Trongulus. I've experimented with a lot of different Shape Knight builds. I'm curious to kind of play around with what the new builds are going to look like, or some people who are also advocates of Shape Knights. But for right now, I'm gonna just say I'm interested to see what happens moving forward. Laji was also errated, so we did not get that right that it would be half banned, but instead it was rewritten to only be once per game. So the same effect happens where if the attack is successful and Laji is still in the field, that you can search for any blue flame card and add it to your hand. Now the situation is that it's just once per game. My theory is that it's still useful, but with it being once per game, maybe people will actually ironically still just run it at one copy. Because the ability to search and just go plus one is still useful, but I don't think you really want to lean into the strategy the same the way that it was prior to the ban list where you're running two copies. And so I would predict that Logi is just running one copy in different decks. And I have a deck as well that I've been playing with without Logi that may benefit from one copy. So I'll keep you posted on that as well. As for Mole, similar to Warriors, was not touched at all, um, which I kind of see, but then again, I'm a little concerned only because maybe I have to spoiler talk about AAA right now. Uh, yeah, so let's talk about AAA in context of Mole, right? Okay, so AAA was actually half banned. So we thought that it wasn't going to be touched at all, but now it's actually at one copy. So I'll kind of draw like a little circle here for AAA. Um, Now it's at one copy. It's limited, and so the mole snipe, in my opinion, becomes a little bit stronger because maybe it's not becoming stronger. It's kind of weird because you have less copies of activators that you might run in a deck. But if Mo hits one of those activators, it becomes a little bit more impactful because you're running less copies. So I'm curious to see how Mo works in a lot of different decks. It's still fairly splashable because if it kills a creature, you get to look at their hand and kill an activator. And so, little bit curious about why this wasn't touched at all, but maybe it works out in the new meta. I'll keep you guys posted. Same thing with Super Flooper. We got that wrong. We thought that one copy would be a perfect balance for it, but it wasn't touched at all. And so um, I feel bad for Gaios enjoyers. People will still be citing two copies of Flooper, most likely. Um, if the Gaios strategies become more popular, which I would imagine the Gaios MIDI gets a little bit of a buff with one less AAA to address the temple traps and things like that. But I feel like people are still going to side Super Flooper as a counter. And it wasn't a rated either. So maybe a rewrite of the text would have been a perfect way to go, but it is what it is. So yeah, no hit to Super Flooper. Combine Harvester, we got this one correct, guys. There's two copies of Combine Harvester available now. And so a lot of the combiner strategies have gotten slight buff. Whether or not they're tier one or meta defining, I'm not sure. However, two combine harvesters is going to open up a few different strategies that were originally overlooked just because they were lacking this extra support card. Skelligas, we got that right as well. So Citadel enjoyers, rejoice. You have your two Skelligas. Um, Maybe I'll do a separate video on the impacts of having two gas in the current meta. As someone who has promoted a couple Sindel profiles, deck profiles on my channel. Um, I think it gets a boost. I'm concerned about if it's enough, um, because other strategies have gotten a boost as well. And so I'm curious to see how people approach the Sendo tempo strategy, or if they more so adapt my mind control type of um, approach to Sindel tempo. Um, but yeah, I'm curious to see how that turns out. But yeah, Skelligas is at 2 copies. Same thing with Crown. Leviathan's Crown is at 2 copies. So, Polysium enjoyers, you have your two defensive activators available now for protecting your Polysium creatures. So, we'll see how that turns out as well. But we got this prediction right, and I think power strategies will start to creep their way back into the meta. The next two are pretty interesting. So Dark Spark, we got this wrong. We thought it wasn't going to be touched at all, and in fact, it was actually put to 1 copy. So Dark Spark is now only available at 1 copy, which I kind of like. I understand why it's the case. Um, and I'm not too mad about this one. So this is a prediction that I got wrong, where it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like Dark Spark at 1 copy, because a lot of decks would just run it just because it's a powerful 6 star that you would essentially play as 2 stars, because once you milled 4 cards, you would get 4 stars back. And so um, you kind of like get a refund on your 6 star investment to play the card. So I kind of get it. Um, Beast of the Conjurers was not touched. Oops, sorry. So actually, we got that right. Yeah, we got that right. And so let me just redraw here and here. Yeah, but we got this all right. That Beast of the Conjurers will not be touched, which is cool because yes, it is very splashable and it does help you with your zone gain. But it's something that you kind of have to think about in the grand scheme as far as like investing the 6 stars. And that's a creature that you have to think about. Does it support my strategy? Yes or no? But it is generic and it's just a good card overall. And we predicted that nothing would happen to it. Same thing with Arcturus. Nothing happened to it. And I think the rationale is that addressing United and Trongulus should be enough to kind of keep Shape Knights in check. I am curious. Shape Knight did perform very well in the last tournament. And so we'll see if it's still top of the meta, if it's like really, really super strong, or if people have figured out a way to kind of like um, play around it, especially with other strategies getting a buff. And then last but not least was Soulstrom, which we thought would not be touched, and we were correct. It did not get touched. The monoplanet strategies are becoming a lot stronger based on these first 3 predictions here, here, and here, which is really good. And so Soulstrom is still a viable thing to go for. But what I've been telling a lot of players in general is that if you're playing a Soulstrom strategy, you always have to think about consistency. Um, does your deck have a way to get to that 4 creature count efficiently and things of that nature? Does it support the synergy of the creatures? Yada yada yada. But with mono planet strategies becoming stronger, I think it's fine to keep Soulstrom at 1. Yeah. Okay, so that's enough of me rambling right now. Um, Let me know down below how you guys feel about the new band list. Maybe I'll post a graphic at the end of this video or something like that. Or if you join our Discord, you can see the full graphic of what the new band list looks like. But this is my reaction to what we got right. I think percentage wise, we did pretty good. I see a lot of green circles. That's a green circle here too. So yeah, yeah. This is Chrono Knight from Chaos Galaxy signing out.